Hello and welcome to Ensemble Teacher Tech. We are going to talk today about a device that I've been using in my classroom and has really made teaching online, virtually, and in a hybrid mode much easier. This device is called the Stream Deck, and it's programmable to use all the best shortcuts for any piece of software that you're using, but for example, Zoom or Google Meets. I'm going to show you and tell you about many of the ways I use this in my classroom, and also get very specific and show you how I've programmed some shortcuts for Sibelius. So this is the Stream Deck. The Stream Deck is a physical device. It plugs in by USB. This particular model has 15 buttons on it. They're soft touch plastic and they're actually clear, and there's a screen behind this. So that's important to know for later because we can actually control the customization of some of the graphics here. There are 3 models of Stream Deck. The smallest has 6 buttons. This is the middle version with 15, and the larger has 32 buttons. This particular model was $150, and while I have no buyer's remorse, I will tell you that if you're thinking to yourself that you might like to try this after seeing a few of the functions, there is a much less expensive trial way of experiencing the Stream Deck because there's a mobile app. And the app itself is free download, and the first month of service is free. It's $2.99 a month after that, but that's much less expensive than buying the physical device. So even if you wanted to use it for 2 or 3 months and sort of figure out if you really want to commit to this, for less than $10, you can really get the functionality if you want to try it. Let's talk about the way the Stream Deck software works. So the Stream Deck comes with some custom-built, some purpose-built software, and that's actually what you're looking at here on screen. When you first view the software, there's actually a more default view, and I'm going to show that to you. It looks like this. This is the way it comes. The way these buttons work is that you are able to program any of these graphic interfaces. You can see all 15 of these squares essentially here are able to be programmed for a custom function. So it comes programmed with one. Let me just show you this real quick. So here's my physical Stream Deck. Hi there. And this button right here is the button that we just see on the left-hand side. And when I press that, it opens the Elgato Stream Deck website. I don't actually need that right now, but I would love to tell you about some of the other ways that we can do this. So when you were looking earlier at my default view, which is my Music Office Deck view, you can see that I have a lot of different shortcuts programmed here. For example, this is a shortcut to my Google Classroom. When I press this button, it brings up my Google Classroom, which is something I do over and over all day long, and eminently useful. If I'm ready to post an assignment, I want to post a link to a meet, send messages to students through Google Classroom, it's a one-touch surface. Something else I do all day long is I open my Google Drive. So if I press the Google Drive button, truly just a press of the button, it brings up my Google Drive, and I'm going to show you how those things are done. So again, let's play pretend. We'll go back to the default view. This is the way the Stream Deck comes. So you've learned that the left-hand side of this is the graphic interface. Well, the right-hand side of this software is where the action comes from. And so there are lists with drop-downs of actions here. There's actually many more actions available. By clicking the top right-hand corner, there are many more actions available to you. I've tried to clean this up for the purpose of making this tutorial. Let's talk about how I accessed my Google Drive. After all, Google Drive is a website. So under System, we're going to use this website button here and literally just click and drag. That's all I did. You can see on the bottom here, we now have a change in format. Let's title this. We'll call it Drive. And the address for Google Drive is drive.google.com. When you're done, I suggest just clicking off and double checking to make sure that this has gone through. Sometimes this gets a little buggy and not everything works perfectly the first time, but I will tell you, it works very well when it does. And so now we have this button, which you can see is now different. Okay, so there were no program buttons here, but you can see this world graphic. It looks like the World Wide Web, I suppose, and the word drive that we typed in. And when I press that, it opens my Google Drive. So let's look at some of the other incredibly useful things that we can do here. So opening websites is just the beginning, and I would remind you that I had spent quite a bit of time programming many websites. Google Classroom is a website. This is a link to my YouTube channel for when I'm ready to upload a video that I've made or just want to go to a playlist that I have saved. Another website. Let's see here. This is my link to Soundtrap. When I press this, it will actually open up the Soundtrap website. My Gmail account, it will check my email, and literally a one-touch button to do that. So if it's something I want to do very quickly, I can. Give you some other functions here. So you saw me switch between profiles. This can be set up so that you can actually manipulate your way through many layers of profile. So on the top left-hand side button here, I have a switch profile button, and that is done under the Stream Deck actions. You can see it says switch profile, and you can use this particular switch profile button to either switch from one profile and just go to the very next one in order. So if I just leave it set up on next profile here, it will go to the very next one in my list, which is my Sibelius shortcuts. I actually have already programmed another switch profile button here, which continues through the cycle of profiles. But since I don't use this and actually don't want it there, I'm gonna delete this if you don't mind. But that is the way that I'm navigating through these, and one of the ways that I've set this up is so that this is the desktop version when I'm sitting in my office and I'm getting ready to teach a fully virtual class from my desk. This is one of the views that I'd be looking at. And of course, if I'm in the room behind me, which is the band room, and I wanted to teach band, I have that switch profile button on the top left, and that brings me to what I call my Zoom profile. And in the Zoom profile, I have a bunch of functionality. So for example, on the bottom left here, you can see that there is this button right now says unmute. In fact, I can show you just more specifically. You can see the button right here I'm pointing to says unmute. That is a mute and unmute toggle for me when I'm in a Zoom meeting. And the way to program that, on the right-hand side of the window here, there's a Zoom set of actions. And you can see this one is called mute toggle, and literally click that and drag it over. And this is going to ask me if I want to replace it. I've already set it up, but essentially if I did replace it, it allows with one touch, and Zoom is not on right now, but you can see that the graphic changes to show that I would be muted or unmuted. I also have right next to that, and this is like the coup de grace, is that I can have a one-touch button for muting the students. So I would love to say right now that I have a group of students that are just complete animals and I need to mute them constantly. That's not today. That's not the classes that I teach. I have had moments where I just needed to mute everyone. And so that one-touch button, as well-behaved as anyone could be, that one-touch button is incredible. And so in the Zoom functions here on the right-hand side, you can see just at the bottom, mute all participants, and that would be a drag-and-drop action. And without doing anything else, that will literally program the mute function. Just makes my life so much easier. So there are some other things that I have in here that are worthy of your attention. I do want to show you some Google Classroom shortcuts, but first let me just show you one more thing that I have set up here for Zoom. You can see that I have this button right here that says Screen Share. And the Screen Share button is I could, from Zoom, I could just click on Screen Share, but there is a shortcut, and I'm on a Mac, and so that would be Command and S. And so if I hit Command S on the keyboard, it would share my screen, but sometimes my hands are full and I really just want to quickly touch with one button. For example, I teach a general music class with ukuleles, and so if I'm holding my ukulele, but I don't have the function to use my hands on the keyboard, or I just want to kind of quickly maybe even in the middle of class, share my screen, I can reach over and press that share screen button. That's known as a hotkey button. And so a hotkey button on the right-hand side, that's actually, even though I'm using that for Zoom, it's not in the Zoom menu. Under the System menu, there is a function here called Hotkey. And on the Mac, a hotkey is any of those functions that you would use. It's like, if you were on a Windows-based computer and you wanted to do Control-A for highlighting all of something, or Command-A for highlighting all of something. Those are hotkeys, so think of those shortcuts. And so what I did here was I dragged a hotkey, not a hotkey switch, that's different. Let's talk about the basic things. But the hotkey function I dragged over here. And I actually did not name this. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I typed in Command S. Although I believe it may have been Shift Command S to be completely truthful. And so it was Shift Command S, so you'll have to excuse me. But I literally click on that box and it says it's observing keystrokes, and I'm going to type Shift Command S, and it automatically makes a label in the title. But I'm going to tell you about how I've made some of these graphics. Now, I love Canva. And so what I've done in Canva is I've made square graphics. Honestly, the perfect ratio is an Instagram graphic, Instagram post, that square graphic. And so what I've done is I've made my own custom square graphics for this. And you can see I just put an arrow and the word screen share and customized sort of a radical color. But another way to do this is to just spend some time in your web browser. And so, like, for example, if you wanted a Gmail icon to customize this with, you can just do a quick image search and download the Gmail icon that you want. I actually download them to a very specific folder. And let's see, you can see here, although this is not super easy to read from your perspective, but I have my Gmail icon. And so to customize those icons on the Stream Deck, I literally choose the hotkey, or the in this case it's a website button. I choose the button that I want to customize, and down on the bottom of the software there's an arrow which I can click, and you can set a graphic from file, which is what I did. So you click set from file, find your graphic wherever it's saved. Mine is under Stream Deck icons, and of course this one was the Gmail icon, so I would have selected that. Mine's already set up, I don't need to do that, but it will just update with this, and now you have a colorful icon on this on the device, and I don't have to read the small text. Wear the glasses, getting a little bit older, it's just easier for me to see the Google M. So let's talk about a few of the other options that we have for the Stream Deck. Okay, so truth in advertising here. I'm a Zoom user, so I don't use Google Meets, but I can tell you that there are some programmable shortcuts that are worth your time here. And so what I have set up here is, if I was a Google Meets teacher, I would have set up first of all, a shortcut, a website shortcut button to Google Meets. And I've showed you that before, but we would grab from the right-hand side a website link and type in the address for Google Meets, which is meet.google.com. But there is the ability to turn your personal microphone on and off, and I can do that again on a one-touch button. So just by pressing my Stream Deck button here, I can turn that on and off. The shortcut on a Mac for that is Command D. And so I program this as a hotkey. Again, on the right-hand side, I would drag a hotkey over, and then in the hotkey window, I would type Command D, and now I can turn my microphone on and turn my microphone off. The same is available for cameras. You can toggle your camera on and off with the shortcut Command E, but again, you can use a hotkey switch on the Stream Deck to do that for you. One of the things that is not available in a hotkey in Google Meets is the ability to mute all. However, there is a plugin for Chrome which is called Mute All on Meet, and it's offered by Rizono here. I've actually never tried this myself again because I don't use Google Meets, but it has a variety of reviews. It says that it's 2.5 stars, but I just want to tell you that there are some students who reviewed this and said that it didn't allow them to mute everyone, including their teachers. So the reviews are a little bit skewed. I tend to think that this probably works really well. And once you install that extension, you can make a hotkey button for yourself for Google Meets. And again, a one-touch mute all button, where if you use the shortcut or the hotkey Command M on the Mac, it will allow you to mute everyone in Google Meets. And I suspect that those are probably the things that you most wish you had for Google Meets. So I want to show you how I'm using the Stream Deck in Sibelius. And there are a few things that I think make this maybe more interesting because of some of the functionality of it. But one of the things that I need to do first is I actually need to close out the Stream Deck software completely, because what I'm about to show you won't work properly if I'm not doing that. So if you'll allow me to open Sibelius here, which is actually already opened. And I'm going to turn my camera off so that you're just looking at my desktop. So this is in fact, let's get you in tune with this. So here is the Stream Deck again by itself. And what I've done is I've just created a little bit larger keypad here. One of the things that I don't like about using Sibelius, and when I'm using it, I use an external USB keypad, to switch between note values. I'm often transcribing something, or I'm copying from the score if I've lost a part. But one of the things that I might need to do, which I find irritating, is on the keypad, there's no super easy way to toggle between all of the different keypad functions. So those keypad functions are, now I'm on a MacBook Pro, and so my function keys, F1, F2, F3, those are gone because of the touch bar by design. So I can't just hit those. I guess on a Windows computer, maybe this would be easier. But because I don't have those functions, so this would be normally F7, F8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't have that easy access. So what I've done here is I've made a profile just for Sibelius, and I've dragged the buttons over. And this button will bring me to, or I'm already on, the first keypad, but the second keypad, third keypad, fourth, fifth, and sixth, which is very, very fast for inputting notation. It's worth just reviewing that these are hotkey buttons. And so, again, I found the function keys and I programmed the function keys. I'm going to walk you through that. But I also just want to tell you that one of the neat things about this is that when I'm not in Sibelius, when something else is the active software. So for example, if I minimize Sibelius and I click somewhere else, so I'm not, I've clicked on my desktop here. This is a real-time camera view of the Stream Deck. And so the Stream Deck goes back to its default view, which is my desktop view. But the second that I get back in Sibelius, it automatically switches to the Sibelius functions. So I'm going to walk you through that right now. In order to do that, I need to obviously close Sibelius, and we're going to open up the Stream Deck software. So let's go back here for a moment. You can see I've got all these hotkeys set up. So here's the hotkey for F7. It's worth mentioning that I don't have to just type F7 here. There's a drop-down menu on the right-hand side, and you can look under F keys for function and then find F7. So this is, again, it's programmed for the F7 shortcut and brings up that keypad for me. But one of the other great things about this is under Edit Profiles, which you saw me take from the name of the profile down, Edit Profiles. And if I find, let's see, we're on Sibelius. On the right-hand side of this pop-up window, you can see that I can set this to automatically switch to a specific profile when I open whatever software I've named. So I chose Sibelius, and so when I open Sibelius, that opens for me. And it just saves me 2 or 3 button pushes. But again, this is about shaving seconds off my day. I'm a one-man show. I'm the only band director from grades 7 through 12. I teach a lot of different levels of music, a lot of different levels of ensemble, and then other classes like music theory and piano class and general music for 7th graders. But shaving all of those seconds off really makes a difference for me and makes my life so much easier. One thing I find myself doing a lot this year is content production. I've been making ukulele play-along videos for my students, which means creating graphics. I love Canva, so I've been using that quite a bit to create these graphics for those videos. But when I download the graphic, eventually, it ends up in my downloads folder. And so I find myself dragging these graphics into whatever presentation software I'm using or into Final Cut Pro to mix the video up. And so I find myself opening my downloads folder all the time. And even though it's a desktop click on my Finder on the Mac, I've also programmed a button here on the left, literally to open my downloads folder. Super useful from, I'm my own secretary. It's a secretarial task, just clicking through to find that. So the way that I've done that here, this particular switch is an open switch. And so under System, we find the Open button. And again, it's a drag and it's a drop over. And so the Open button wants to know what to open. So I would click Choose. And what I really need to do is I know that my Downloads folder is over here on the left. And so it knows now that this is the Downloads folder I want open. And I click Open. And it has made that pathway. So now when I press that button, it's over here behind me, but it opens my downloads folder. So that is able to be worked with very, very quickly. And again, that was the open function. One of the other fun things I'm doing is I'm doing some activities where the students have to create music, or they're doing a particular activity, but maybe only for a few seconds. So one of the things I've done is I programmed a timer into my my uses here. And so on the Stream Deck software, under the Stream Deck software, there's a timer function. Again, drag and drop. The timer has to be set by seconds. So if you wanted to set a 5-minute timer, you would have to type in 300 seconds. Just to give you the gist of this here, I've typed in a 5-second timer, and I'm just going to bring up this view here. And so you can see that it says 5 seconds, but once I click this, it begins to count down. And of course, there's a sound. There we go. And so if I needed to call the students back to the class or back to whatever activity we were doing, I'm able to do that with a timer. I would imagine that if you were at the beginning of your ensemble class and students are getting instruments set up, you could announce 30 seconds till we begin, the warm up, press that button, and have that graphic or that sound played over the speakers. Your students would have that trigger and know that they need to be in their seats within those 30 seconds, and they could be ready to play. Again, just that one touch button. One more awesome tip before I leave you today. I love in a Zoom meeting to be able to show the students my music, to show them my conductor score. And I've been teaching from Fourscore actually for a couple of years now. I use my iPad Pro to read the sheet music, and I store all my scores on there. But one of the other things that I love is that you might not know, but there's a desktop version of Fourscore. And so you can see here I've got this button programmed to open a piece of software. And so that's an open function on the software itself. Again, over here on the right-hand side, under System, it's an open function. And I've customized the graphic here from the web, but it opens Fourscore. And you can see, I'll show you my desktop. This is my score to Majesty by John McAllister, who is, by the way, I hope that I'm his biggest fan because I love everything he's doing for music teachers on his YouTube channel. Check that out if you haven't already. But this allows me, you can see some of the markings that I've made in my score here, and allows me to say, oh, by the way, flutes, there's an A flat in this key signature, and so I can I can bring this up, but because it's Fourscore and I have my Fourscore app set up this way, I can also open their specific sheet music for them while I'm screen sharing. And again, I'm not using my iPad right now to show you this. This is the desktop version of Fourscore. Kind of my little pro tip for you for the day. And again, as I'm in the Zoom meeting, if I say, hey, I really wish I could show you flute players, that flute music, well, there it is. Thanks for watching today. Would you consider subscribing to my YouTube channel? Go to YouTube and search for Ensemble Teacher Tech. I know that's a little bit of work, but I don't have enough subscribers yet to have a custom address. I'd be very, very thankful if you would do that. And please spread the word. I think many people will benefit from this channel. I give of myself freely so that you can have the next step in your use of technology in the Ensemble classroom. My next episode is going to talk about my virtual mixer that I'm using this year, which is called Loopback. You know, a lot of people are finding themselves in a position this year where they are unfamiliar with sharing audio and all of the different audio sources available to them for virtual teaching. And if you have not seen any of these Loopback software concepts yet, I'm going to walk you through how I do that on my computer. So I hope you'll join me, and thanks again for watching. Take care.